working with the auditor, basically, we became aware of that proposed increase, that increase of Superior Court judges effective July 1. We got notification of that sometime in August, and consequently you have the ordinance presented to you. I drafted the ordinance to reflect what appears to be the standard that has been enunciated in the current ordinance and previous ordinances, and that is that salaries of this Board of Supervisors is at least initially contemplated to be 25% of that of a Superior Court judge, and that is why it was proposed in the manner in which it was. What I also did was I included a budget printout, if you will, which Ms. Morgan helped prepare, and you'll see those at the end of the packet. Excuse me. At the end of the packet, and my crude handwriting there at the bottom, which says budget cost for salary as it stands now, and circled that amount in the upper right-hand portion. That's $286, and then the next page, which is budget cost for salary as proposed, and circled in the upper right as well. That's $361, and then I also asked her to prepare, just as a matter of presenting it to you for your consideration, budget cost for salary halfway between what it is now and the 25% of what a Superior Court judge makes, and that's $324,279. So that is the reason that's on the agenda today. It's an ordinance, and so consequently there are some formalities associated with that, but I don't think that's where the discussion is going to be. So as far as I am concerned, I fulfilled my obligation under the ordinance and presented it as required. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Bergen. Okay. Discussion.
Okay.
Question to Bob.
Now, are all the counties in the state supervisors and commissioners and such, whatever they call them, and their salaries are attached to the judges, or is that a unique thing, or?
It's not required by law, no. I think some do. I think that convention is employed not just for members of boards of supervisors in some counties, but I think that convention is employed for other positions across the state. And so I don't know from where it stems. I don't know what the origin is of it, but it is not required by law.
Okay.
So.
To help answer your question, Tom, there are some counties that are charter counties, and they're very limited on what their supervisor salaries are. In some cases, like in Tama County, they're very minimal. And you get down into San Bernardino, I do believe that the supervisor salary down there is like $250,000 a year. So it's even more than what the judges make. So I mean, it's kind of
All over the board.
Yeah, it's all. I think it's all over the map. That's correct. But I think back in the '90s is where this percentage of judges' salary became kind of a popular method used to sprinkle throughout the counties, rural counties as well as urban counties. I think it kind of started in the urban counties like San Diego and some of those. And from my recollection, because it's been a while since we had this item before, but I think my recollection was it was the grand jury somewhere, one of those counties came up with a proposal, and they don't do 25% of the salary. I think down in San Diego County, it's like 60% of the salary. So depending upon the size of the county, but in the small rural counties, I guess 25% is what became kind of there are several of them I think that use that. Whether they, in our case, I think the board in the past, even though that was what was the standard used, you can adopt whatever less than that, and that's what the board has chosen to do in the last adjusted salary back in 2000, 2002, somewhere around there. It's been a few years past.
Good. More questions to Mr. Bergen? If not, with the discussion, the board members want to speak up on this agenda item? action of the board. We can take no action on it. At this point, I see no motion or
So this would be an ordinance, what, we'd have a reading and then another reading and then,
The way it would, Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Yes, sir.
I don't know.
the way it would go is someone would have to move to introduce it in its current form, and then it would either need to be read or, if you all by motion, waive reading. That's the first, that would be today's date. And then we'd have to have it on the agenda again more than 5 days from today for a subsequent, for possible adoption on the introduced ordinance. That's how that would proceed. If there are changes to it, there would need to be changes to it before the introduction of it. Otherwise,
At the
it might
next reading.
change the step.
At the next reading.
Well, there's only one reading required. I almost said one reading required. Sorry. Only one reading required unless you all waive that. That could either occur today or at a second meeting of this board. But the point is that if there's a change to the language as it's proposed here, it would need to occur before its introduction, before someone moved to introduce it, and that was approved. Otherwise, it might stall the time frame or the number of meetings that might be required for adoption. Did that make sense?
it did.
Okay.
So,
Did I
follow-up
answer your question?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
but to expand that now, so now, as it does move forward, okay, and there is changes, does it go through the reading process again, or is it?
Possibly, yes. I need to examine that.
Only if there's changes. Only if there's changes.
I didn't follow you, Ms. Spencer.
I know.
Just wait till the board.
I don't have any reason to disagree with that
Your question been answered.
in and of itself.
Has your question been answered, Eric?
Yes.
Do you have any more questions?
I have no more questions this time.
Public, Mrs. Spencer, do you have a question?
For the record, or your records, in 2002, the silly language of the judge relationship was put into your ordinance. You took no action on it until 2007, and again, this is based on public record, which you took a beating on. Even the Lassen County Times wrote an editorial on 6/23/07, which we have a copy of, chastising you for attempting to invoke that 25%. We gave you a letter today. It says, "Dear Supervisors, in 2013 you voted a pay increase for yourselves. Can we help disclose that the supervisors were receiving at the time in excess of the $35,485 amount salary stated in Title II, Chapter 236.030. The public is not aware of the actual payments made to you each year, and you don't really volunteer them. In 2014 and 2015 fiscal year, Mr. Chapman received $58,463.41 in salary and county paid benefits. Mr. Pyle received $58,463.44 in salary and county paid benefits. Mr. Hammond received $55,319.98 in salary and county paid benefits. County Council is suggesting that the supervisors vote themselves an $11,775 raise today. However, did not take into the consideration that this would not be a competitive salary. In Butte County, the supervisors represent each 44,000 people in their district and are paid $53,014. In Shasta County, the supervisors represent 35,720 constituents and are paid $53,508. Plymouth County, a little different, probably more comparable to Lassen. Their supervisors represent 3,929 people and are paid $35,050. But that's a true salary. That's a true compensation. Lassen County supervisors, the 5 of you, represent approximately 4,684 people. And presently, the public thinks you earn $35,485 in salary, but aren't aware of the $58,000 that you actually receive. This action today would be excessive and unwarranted, and we suggest that this agenda item be removed from discussion. The supervisors are presently paid more than a competitive salary plus benefits. The fact that you've brought the sheriff's department to an impasse when you have so much money, hidden and non-hidden, that you could make them competitive and you could pay them so the people will stay here. The people that do the work, you don't do the work. You attend one meeting, and it's, you know, you may think you work, it may be work for you, attending one meeting, Bob, because I know you need to be on your ranch. But the people, the department heads, they do the work for you, and they need to be fairly compensated. And to bring the sheriff's department to an impasse is disgusting. To not pay the people that do the work, the caretakers and the Lassen Works and the One Stop people and all of the people that actually do the work for the people. For you to ask for this $11,000 raise, almost $12,000 raise, I don't know, you ought to be ashamed. You're getting a competitive wage right now. More than competitive wage right now. So I urge you to remove this from, I mean, if you want to make a lot of people mad and piss them off, take the $11,000 a year raise and see what happens. It'll be the same thing as 2007. I'm done.
Thank you for your comment. At this point, I have not asked for nothing. Okay, anybody else in the public wish to speak?
Teresa Anderosi. I was a Lassen resident for a little bit. I moved out of this county because I don't like the things that I see. I'm very appalled by what I'm hearing today. I deal with a lot of counties, so I know a lot of county CEOs make tons and tons of dollars. I know board of supervisors for part-time make tons and tons of dollars. The salary you make is what I am lucky to get for a year for a part-time position. But, when you have your peace officers, your home care workers, your sheriff, and impasse, and for the home care workers, we didn't even get to impasse.
Yeah.
We had mediation that we didn't even get. It was canceled twice. These are poverty people taking care of the people in this community. And I mean, wake up. This is crazy that your people that protect the people in this community, the people who keep these people out of hospitals in this community, are up here begging for some help.
Thank you for your comment. Anybody else wish to speak, John?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. John Mino. I think that anybody that does work on behalf of the public should be expected to be compensated for the good work that they do for the citizens. Whether it's the IHSS, whether it's us, whether it's the work that the 5 of you do. I can look at that packet and I can see that it's been a long time since the board has had a raise. Now, I'm not part of the public that thinks that is confused about what you get. That retirement swap was a necessary thing that had to happen because of the pension reform. That was not a true raise. That was an exchange of benefits, and I got the same thing. It's not a raise. It cost us money because it changed the way we were taxed on that, what used to be a benefit. And as I look at that, I can tell you, when we walked into the bargaining table last December, we had a lot of talks with Haig about the past, about the fact that our group hasn't had a raise since 2008, about the fact that from 2008 until now, we actually took a 3% pay cut. And at some point that becomes suffocating. The buying power continues to erode. They say there's nothing for certain except death and taxes. Well, add health care premiums to that, because they go up almost without question every single year. And as we've sat back and watched our buying power erode, we feel it. Now, I would never stand here in front of this board and say that that you guys are different than us. At some point, the board's salaries should be adjusted. They should be. I don't know what that number is. Obviously, that's for you to decide. As I look at that ordinance as proposed, it raises some questions for me. Should a board member make more than a correctional officer who's probably breaking up a fight right now? Should a board member make more than a 911 dispatcher who's on the phone right now? And should a board member make the same amount as a top-dog deputy sheriff? I ask that rhetorically because that's a policy decision. That is firmly within the board's exclusive decision-making power. You guys make those decisions, and I don't dispute that. I'm not going to stand here and say that you guys shouldn't get a raise. Now the fact that, Bob, it's your obligation under the ordinance is very comforting, but the timing is horrific. We dug in with Hague, and Hague says it's 10% or bust, and that is the answer. One size fits all. Everybody gets the same thing. And if everybody gets the same thing, and for there to be a document drafted, we're clearly that's not the same. Now, at the end of the day, there's a couple things that are significant. I think the document recognizes. The past is relevant. The fact that you guys haven't had a raise in a long time is relevant. The fact that many county employees haven't had a raise in a long time is relevant. And that was part of our discussion from the very get-go. In a vacuum, 10% over 3 years might seem fair, but we're not in a vacuum. In the last 8 years, all of our buying power, yours included, has eroded because healthcare premiums go up every single year. So however the board decides to weigh in on this, I don't think that the board should have to be stifled and strangled and never get a raise. I don't believe that. Because you do work on behalf of the public, just like many of the people in this room. What I would say, there's two things that are important in this ordinance. One, I think it says the past is relevant. You guys haven't had a raise for a long time. This document would propose to catch you up with today. The other thing it says is we don't have to treat every group equally. That there may be times when it is okay to say there's no cookie cutter that gets cast over every single employee in this county. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Kevin.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Kevin Jones, I spoke already, and I just wanted to tail off with what John said. And first of all, I want to make it clear, I know that, or at least I haven't heard any board member make a motion and no board member say, hey, I want a 30% raise. And so I want to acknowledge that. But I agree with what John said. The one thing that scares me, and I don't know exactly, I haven't read the entire resolution, but it does sound like there is a salary adjustment tied to another person's position. And whether that's automatic or not, I think that's scary. I think that, again, I think everyone deserves a raise. I think everyone deserves a salary adjustment. I think it should, show parity with other counties or what have you. I don't think it should be automatic. I know that there are contracts that have automatic raises built into them in our county, but I don't think it should be automatic. I think it should be show parity with other areas, and I think that's fair and it's equal. I mean, we've all lived through salary surveys, and I don't think they've done anything. So that's all I ask. And I know this board, and I sit on the board, and we have kind of a unique situation where you don't get a salary, but you can't take benefits. And I know that you don't sit here for 2 or maybe 6 hours every other Tuesday. I know there's more work. We all know that. So I just want you to know that. I know no one came in here saying I'm on the board of soups and I want X percent more. And I understand how it's wrote, but I just want you to understand. Same thing I said. Everyone's unique. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Iona?
Thank you. Iona McCain here. It seems so strange that I read in the paper today that there's $200,000 for 15 years for the city and the county for the pool. It seems strange to me that we're remodeling a county building. It all seems government to me, all right? Big government and little people down here, and little peons down here, okay? I've sat here and I've listened to the sheriff ask for a raise, type thing. or at least some kind of compromise to protect the citizens of Lassen County. I sit here and listen to the HHS people come and say, well, there's certain services that the people need over here, and they're denied. I hear about juvenile hall. You guys, please, do good for the people. Stop spending on salaries when you have all, and stop spending on big, wonderful projects like the pool and the weird model of the courthouse and that sort of thing for the old courthouse. Look for where you're taking the money from. Prices have gone up. I went down to get a dozen of eggs, $5.99 for a dozen eggs. All right? Everything, meat. Have you seen meat? $15 a pound. These people need to be fed too. You know, they're working. They're working, and I thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you, Anna. Anybody else in the public wish to speak? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board. Any board members have any? Do anybody want to make a motion or not? If not, we will move on.
You know, I'd like to say something if I could, Mr. Chairman. First of all, it's immaterial to me. You know, I've sat on this board for a long time, and salary has not been an issue. And as I've indicated in past years, first year I sat on this board, the board, being new, and being young, I, didn't really have maybe a total understanding of the lay of the land, and I voted in favor of the motion to raise the salary of the board. I think it went up $50 or something like that. And in that first term in office, I think I probably took more grief over that $50 than collectively all the rest of the decisions I made for that whole term. But the voters didn't hold it against me. I mean, obviously I was reelected after that particular term. But it taught me the valuable lesson that when you sit on a body and you're put in a position where you have to vote on your own compensation, that it guarantees an angry response. It has nothing to do with the justification. And I think there's not a board member I've served with over the last 40 years that hasn't had empathy for the argument raised by those who spoke at the podium. And part of this job is to be a champion for our employees. But there's nobody to be a champion for the board. And unfortunately, it's a flaw in the system. And we're going to have 3 people running for 3 seats. I mean, we're going to have 3 new supervisors, or 3 supervisors, maybe 1 returning after next year's election. And those people are going to be running next year. And so we want to treat it as a backbench, a low, important job, then fine, treat it that way. But I think that in order to attract people who have the capacity to do the job, especially with term limits now, to park their business or to park whatever avocation or vocation or interest that they have, or to give up whatever sort of job they have to be able to serve. And this is not a part-time job. It may be, if anything, it's one that requires you to have a lot of flexibility. If you work for somebody, it's very difficult to sit on a board like this. I can tell you that right now. I had not had normal work experience. The only reason why I'm able to, I guess, survive with the pay I've gotten is because I have my own small business on the side. And I have to be very careful that that business does not cross anyway with anything that does with the county or county funding. And that limits even the business opportunity in a huge way. So to me, I think that the pay level, and it's not automatic, it still requires a vote. It's a guideline that was established and was incorporated years back, and to this date the board has never implemented the 25% automatic thing. I mean, why we use 25? I mean, if we're going to be stuck at 10 or 15, we should maybe revise that standard to be 10 or 15. All the trigger is that periodically we're advised of that, and to this date the board has always declined to do that. Now we had in our packet, or in our paperwork, we had a breakdown, and dealing with negotiations, we do get numbers, but if I was to take, John, your association, and we have it for all the associations, and it's relative, but if we would have taken the same pay increases that were given to the bargaining units over the time period since our last I mean, 2013, yes, there is one there, but that was the trade for that was required by the PERS, you know, the flip, the CalPERS flip that was required by the pension reform law. But prior to that, our last pay raise was basically in 2002, and in 2010, this board took a 1% voluntary pay reduction, and that hasn't been restored, where all the bargaining units have been restored. But using the 33,000, we translate that through as our pay rate, we would be just shy of what this 25% was. But, you know, this board chose, especially during hard times, to forego any raise opportunities it could have granted itself in favor of supporting our various employee groups, and we may do that again. I can say as one individual back in the mid-90s when Pete Wilson and Willie Brown stole the local taxes, the local property tax money in the ERAP thing, I mean, we laid off 40% of our general fund workforce. We were forced to because of the mechanics that was there, and the board declined to take any sort of a pay cut. And I didn't do this with any fanfare. In fact, very few people even know about it because, and at the time, it was something that I was taken to task for because it could have created a huge rift within the board. But I went to the county auditor and I voluntarily took a 60% pay cut in my own compensation. My wife thought I was crazy. She still thinks I am. But for having foregone that. But you make individual choices. You know, in time when the revenues restored itself and we had some relief from Sacramento, you know, needless to say, I canceled that significant of a pay cut. But there's been numerous times where this board and board members in the past, and myself in particular, have been willing to sacrifice beyond whatever sort of salary is there. So to me, you know, I think that it's important to understand in that negotiations that it would be nice for a change, that there would be people who would champion the importance of having, I think, adequate compensation for a body like this because of the work that they are expected to do, which makes possible the work that everybody else does. That's part of the system. So in my particular case, I think for the next generation of board members who will be serving, I would like to see some legitimate compensation given to them. As far as I'm concerned, for me, it's not important at all. And I've demonstrated my willingness to sacrifice, and I'll continue to sacrifice if necessary to make this county work. But I do have a little bit of resentment toward those who sit in the audience and others who have nothing but contempt for government, have nothing but contempt for county government. That those folks, I have very little respect for their input on that particular point because I'm proud of the work that this board has done. I'm proud of the work that boards in the past have done. I'm proud of the administration, and I'm more importantly, I'm proud of the rank and file and line workers. And you're right, Kevin, if there's a way for us to find 20% if the money was there and we can chip it off, I would be the first one to say it needs to go into the hands of our dedicated workforce, because that's what makes this county great, and we'll continue to make it great in years to come. And anything that this board does, and I'm confident that each of the individual board members are committed to that goal. And if there's a way to make that happen, irrespective of what happens in these impasses and these negotiation summaries, I think we're all on the same page that way. So, Mr. Chairman, yeah, I'm in favor of us doing something. To what degree, you know, it's really up to the rest of you. And but I think it's something that needs to be respected. And the fact that this board's gone almost 15 years without any significant adjustment in its pay speaks for itself. So.
Okay, thank you, Jim. And I'd just like to say, at this point, I have no intention of supporting him. Later on, when after all negotiations are done, you know, maybe we'll look at something. I don't know. But this is way too much money. Academic support, please.
Here.
I'd like to make a
Mrs.
comment.
Spencer, you have already spoken on this agenda item, and I would appreciate it if you didn't interrupt whoever is speaking.
I'd like to make a comment on
Okay, well, let me finish. And I again want to say thank you, Public Safety, for the three of you who spoke. You got a tremendous amount of my respect. As you know, my dad was a CHP, and I grew up through my childhood years looking at a badge every morning. So. My mom was a personnel secretary at CCC. So I don't come from a ranching family, I come from a public safety family. And those who tell me what my job is and what I do are obviously extremely ignorant of my job and what I do. If you can't keep your lips together, Mrs. Spencer, I will have you ejected from this room. Do not come here to try to stop this board from taking care of the public business, and that's what you're doing. Tom.
It seems that there's a bit of a misconception of what we actually do.
Nobody.
The stuff I do daily for this county is enormous. I don't just come here 3 Tuesdays a month and sit here and make decisions. Every day I'm doing county business. Every day.
It's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
I get calls at 11:30 at night about county business. It's incredible to me to have people sit in this audience and say, you're here 3 days a month. And think that's the extent of the job that we do as a board. And it's, some people better wake up, because there's a lot more to it. There isn't a call that people call me that I don't return. How many times a day do we talk, Richard?
Too many.
Why is that?
Because there's a lot.
Mr. Chairman, if I say, Mr. Henry, benefit, I even get calls from people when they can't reach him on the phone wanting to know how to get a hold of him, or better yet, can I take care of his problem?
Well, we all do that.
We all do that, but I mean,
We all do that.
even when I go on vacation, everybody's got my cell phone. If someone calls Regina wanting to give out a pile, she gives them my cell phone. My number is my cell phone, not the county. But I tell Regina, you give that to anybody that calls and have them call me immediately. And I don't care if I'm out of the country on vacation, drinking margaritas in Mexico, where I happen to be. That phone rings, I answer and take care of that person. You see a road crossing up on 821 in Westwood. I can't even tell you how many 1,000 hours I put into that, getting that done. As one item. Anyhow, I have no intention in supporting this agenda
And
item.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask that we, or not ask, I'd like to move that we table this item until we've concluded the negotiations that are still pending with the sheriffs and any of the other bargaining units. I think we should wait till we're all done.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
I would have to say this weekend I was at the top of the John Hancock Center in Chicago, and I was dealing with my phone with constituents and taking care of business.
Take 5 minutes recess. Thank you.
And some rotary business.
Huh?
And some rotary business.
No, I don't know about
Every one of those are non-years except for Jim Chapman.
I haven't